The knock came at 6:43 a.m. on October 12, 1989. Not a normal knock, too heavy, too deliberate. 3 slow, measured strikes that shook my entire doorframe. I was 49 years old, lived alone in my cabin in the Montana wilderness for 17 years, rarely had visitors, never had visitors at dawn. I approached the door cautiously, looked through the peephole, saw nothing. Whoever was there was too tall for the peephole to catch. My heart started racing. Then I heard it. A sound I hadn't heard in 15 years but recognized instantly. A low, rumbling vocalization, not quite a growl, not quite speech, but unmistakably communication. And unmistakably, him. The baby I'd found crying in the woods in 1974. Except he wasn't a baby anymore. Through the window, I caught a glimpse, 8 feet tall, massive shoulders, but the same eyes, the same tilt of the head when curious. It was him. After 15 years, he'd found me. He'd remembered. And judging by what he was carrying, a bundle wrapped in leaves, making sounds of distress, he needed my help again. My name is Thomas McCarthy. I'm 73 years old now. This story starts in September 1974, when I was 34, newly divorced, and had just moved to a remote cabin in the Bitterroot Mountains of Montana to escape a life that had fallen apart. What I found in those woods, what found me, changed everything I thought I knew about the world, about connection, about family, about what it means to keep a promise across species and across time. September 1974. I'd been in my cabin for 3 months, still adjusting to solitude, still learning to live without electricity, without running water, without anyone around for miles. Some days the silence felt healing, other days it felt like drowning. I was hiking about 2 miles from my cabin, gathering firewood before winter set in, late afternoon. The light was getting low. I was about to head back when I heard it. A sound that didn't belong in the forest. High-pitched, distressed, rhythmic, the sound of something crying. At first I thought it was an animal, a fox kit maybe, or a young coyote, but something about the rhythm was wrong, too human, too emotional. It wasn't just distress, it was grief, loneliness, fear, the kind of crying that comes from being completely alone and knowing it. I followed it. The sound led me off the trail I'd been following, through dense underbrush, past a fallen log covered in moss, into a small clearing I'd never seen before, and there, sitting at the base of an enormous Douglas fir, was the source of the sound. At first, I thought, child? Someone's lost child. My heart lurched. A child alone in the wilderness this late in the day would die of exposure by morning. I rushed forward, then I got closer, and my brain tried to process what my eyes saw. It wasn't human, couldn't be human, but it wasn't quite animal either. Something between, something impossible, maybe 2 feet tall, sitting with its knees pulled up to its chest, arms wrapped around its legs, rocking slightly, the posture of grief universal across species. It was covered in light brown fur, not thick, like a bear's, more like hair. Soft-looking, almost golden, in the late afternoon light. The face was what stopped me, cold. Remarkably human, small nose, large, expressive eyes that were currently filled with tears. Yes, actual tears streaming down its face. A mouth that clearly showed emotion, bottom lip trembling as it cried. But the proportions were wrong. The brow ridge was more pronounced than human. The ears were slightly pointed. The hands, visible as it gripped its own arms, were too large for the body, too strong-looking, with thick fingers ending in flat, dark nails. A baby Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it, sitting alone in the woods, crying like a lost child. And my mind was screaming impossibility, while my heart was breaking at the sight of that absolute despair. I froze. 10 feet away. Every rational part of my brain said, run. This isn't real. This is dangerous. This is impossible. But I couldn't move because the crying. God, the crying. It was universal. It was desperate. It was the sound of a baby who'd been alone too long and was losing hope that anyone would come. How long had it been sitting here? Hours? All day? The sun was getting low. Temperature was dropping. Montana nights in September hit freezing. This baby wouldn't survive the night alone. My first instinct was to run. This was impossible. Didn't exist. My mind trying to rationalize what my eyes saw. But the crying, the desperate, heartbroken crying, it was universal. Any parent, any person with basic empathy would recognize it. This was a baby in distress. I approached slowly, took a step. The baby saw me. Movement caught in peripheral vision. Its head snapped around. Crying stopped abruptly. It stared at me with eyes that showed fear and hope, fighting for dominance. Fear of this strange creature approaching, hope that maybe finally someone had come. For a long moment we just looked at each other, me trying to process that this impossible thing was real, it trying to decide if I was threat or salvation. Then it made a decision, started crying again, harder this time, reaching toward me with both arms, the universal gesture of a child wanting to be picked up, wanting comfort, wanting help. I knelt down, made myself smaller, less threatening. "Hey," I said softly. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." My voice seemed to startle it. It stopped crying again, tilted its head, studying me, processing. I could see intelligence in those eyes. Not animal intelligence, something more. Recognition that I was communicating. That sounds from my mouth meant something. Then it made a sound back. Not crying, different, lower, more controlled. Almost like trying to communicate, trying to respond. It was a questioning sound, rising inflection at the end, like asking, "Are you safe? Will you help me? Who are you?" "I'm Thomas," I said quietly. "I live near here. Where's your mama, your family?" The baby made sounds, gestures toward the forest with one small hand. But the gestures were vague, uncertain. It didn't know where its family was. That much was clear. Lost? Abandoned? Had the family been attacked? Scattered? Were they looking for it? Or was it truly alone? My mind raced with questions. But the immediate problem was clear. This baby was alone, getting cold as night approached, visibly distressed, and wouldn't survive without help. "I'm going to come closer, okay?" I said. "I'm not going to hurt you, I promise." I moved slowly, one foot, then another. The baby tensed, ready to run, but also desperate enough for help that it stayed. I knelt down right in front of it, close enough to touch, close enough to smell it, earthy, clean, like cedar and moss. I reached out my hand slowly, palm up, non-threatening. "It's okay, you can trust me." The baby stared at my hand, processing, deciding. Then, slowly, tentatively, it reached back. Tiny fingers wrapped around my finger. The touch was electric, warm, real, unmistakably alive, unmistakably trusting me. "Where's your mama?" I asked quietly. "Can you take me to her?" The baby made sad sounds, shook its head. A clear gesture. "No, can't, don't know." The meaning was obvious even without shared language. It was lost. Didn't know where its family was. Didn't know how to get home. I made a decision that changed my life. Okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to pick you up now, all right? Don't be scared." I reached out with both hands. The baby tensed. Then, as I gently lifted it, something remarkable happened. It didn't fight, didn't panic. Instead, it clung to my jacket, wrapped small arms around my neck, buried its face in my shoulder, trembling from cold and fear and relief, trusting me completely. And I felt its small body relax. Safe. Finally, safe. Someone had come. Someone was helping. I stood up, baby Sasquatch clinging to me like a human toddler would, and I carried it home, carried an impossible creature, carried someone's lost child, carried the beginning of a story that would span 15 years and change everything I thought I understood about connection, memory, and trust across species. Back at my cabin, I assessed the situation. The baby was maybe 6 months old, 20 pounds, healthy except for being hungry and scared. I had no idea what to feed it. Tried warm milk with sugar, it drank eagerly, fell asleep in my arms, and I sat there holding an impossible creature, wondering what the hell I'd just done. Over the next 2 days, I cared for the baby, fed it, kept it warm, made a bed from blankets in a corner of my cabin. The baby, I started thinking of it as him, responded well. Started making happy sounds, started playing with objects, started following me around the cabin like a puppy. But I knew he couldn't stay. His family was out there somewhere, looking for him, grieving. I had to find them, return him. On the third morning, I heard them. Vocalizations in the distance, deep, urgent, calling. I recognized it immediately, parents looking for their child. I picked up the baby. "That's your family," I said. "Let's get you home." I carried him toward the sounds. They got louder, closer. Then I saw them, two massive figures, 8 or 9 feet tall, moving through the forest, searching, calling. I stopped at a clearing, set the baby down. He looked at me, confused. I pointed toward his family. "Go on, they're looking for you." He hesitated, reached for me, made a sad sound. I felt my heart breaking, but I pushed him gently. "Go. You belong with them, not me." He stumbled forward, called out, a high-pitched sound. The vocalizations from the forest stopped, then came back, urgent, close. The parents burst into the clearing, saw their baby. The mother, I assumed it was the mother, made a sound I can only describe as relief and joy combined, ran forward, scooped up the baby, held him, checked him for injuries, made soothing sounds. The father, larger, more cautious, approached me, stopped 10 feet away. We stared at each other. I held up my hands, empty, peaceful. I found him alone. I kept him safe. I'm returning him unharmed. The father studied me, then did something that shocked me. He bowed his head, a clear gesture of thanks, of acknowledgement, of respect. The mother approached, baby still in her arms. She looked at me. Her eyes were intelligent, emotional, grateful. She made a sound. The baby made the same sound, teaching him. The sound was directed at me. It meant, thank you, gratitude, acknowledgement of debt. Then they turned and walked into the forest. The baby looked back once, raised a tiny hand. Wave, goodbye. I raised my hand back, and they were gone. I stood in that clearing for a long time, processing. A family of Sasquatch, real, intelligent, emotional, and I'd returned their child. I'd been part of something impossible, something profound. Over the following months, I'd occasionally find gifts near my cabin. Fresh fish, cleaned and gutted. Bundles of edible roots. Once a deer haunch, offerings. Thanks. The family hadn't forgotten, but I never saw them directly again. The gifts continued for about a year, then stopped. I assumed they'd moved on, migrated, found other territory. Normal for wildlife. Life continued. I adapted to solitude, started trapping and selling furs, did odd jobs in the nearest town, built a life. The memory of the baby Sasquatch became like a dream, something that had happened but felt increasingly unreal as years passed. Then came October 12th, 1989, 15 years after I'd found the baby. I was 49, still in the same cabin, still alone. 15 years of solitary life. I'd gotten used to it, the silence, the routine, wake at dawn, check traps, gather firewood, cook simple meals, read by lamplight, sleep, repeat. A simple life, a quiet life. A life that had healed the wounds from my divorce and let me find peace in solitude. That knock came at 6:43 a.m. I was making coffee, the old percolator bubbling on my wood stove, the sun just starting to lighten the sky. And then, boom, boom, boom! 3 massive strikes on my door. The entire cabin shook. Pictures rattled on the walls. My coffee pot nearly fell off the stove. My first thought, bear. Grizzlies sometimes investigated cabins, but bears didn't knock. They scratched. They pushed. They didn't make deliberate, measured strikes like knocking. My second thought, person. But what person was strong enough to shake my entire cabin with 3 knocks? And who would come to my door at dawn? I approached the door cautiously. I kept a rifle by the door. Montana wilderness required it. I picked it up, not aiming, just ready. Looked through the peephole, saw nothing. Whoever or whatever was there was too tall for the peephole to catch. The peephole was positioned for average human height. This was higher. My heart started racing. Something was wrong. This wasn't normal. I moved to the window instead, carefully pulled back the curtain just an inch, and caught a glimpse, a massive shoulder, covered in dark brown fur, rising and falling with breath. Something enormous, something alive, standing on my porch. Then I heard it. A sound I hadn't heard in 15 years, but recognized instantly. A low, rumbling vocalization. Not quite a growl, no threat in it. Not quite speech, but unmistakably intentional. Communication. A specific pattern of sounds. Rising inflection, like a greeting, like calling out, "I'm here, I'm not a threat. Please open the door." And in that sound, I heard something familiar, something that triggered memories from 15 years ago. The same tonal quality, the same rhythm. Older, deeper, but the same essential pattern. My hands started shaking. It couldn't be. Could it? After 15 years? Had he come back? Had he remembered? Did he even remember me? I put down the rifle, made a decision. If this was who I thought it was, if this was him, then I owed him trust. I'd earned his trust 15 years ago by helping him. Now he was offering me his by coming here. I couldn't meet that with a weapon. I unbolted the door. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely work the latch. Pulled it open. And there he was. Adult now. Fully grown. 8 feet tall. Maybe 8.5. Massive shoulders that barely fit in my doorway. Arms like tree trunks. Covered in dark brown fur that caught the early morning light. The face had matured. Heavier brow. Stronger jaw. Weathered from years of wilderness life. But the eyes. The same eyes. Still intelligent. Still expressive. Still showing emotion, clearly. We stared at each other across 15 years, collapsed to nothing. Him on my porch, me in my doorway. Both trying to process the impossibility of this reunion, he made a sound, low, rumbling, but unmistakably greeting, recognition. "Hello, old friend?" "It's you," I whispered. My voice cracked, tears starting in my eyes. "You came back. After all this time, you came back." He made another sound, different tone, urgent, gestured with one massive hand. And that's when I saw what he was carrying. Cradled in his other arm, held with surprising gentleness for hands that size, was a bundle, wrapped in large leaves, broad leaves that looked like they'd been carefully selected and layered, creating insulation, creating protection. And from inside that bundle came sounds, crying, the same desperate, distressed crying I'd heard 15 years ago. My heart stopped, then started racing. "Your baby?" I asked. He made a sound, affirmative, yes. Nodded his head, a gesture he must have learned from watching humans. Then held the bundle out to me, carefully, urgently. The meaning was unmistakable. "Take it. Help it. Save it." I took the bundle. Surprisingly heavy, 15, maybe 20 pounds. I carefully pulled back the leaves and saw another baby, smaller than he'd been when I'd found him, maybe 3 months old, light brown fur, but the face, so pale, lips almost blue, breathing rapid and shallow, burning with fever. I could feel the heat radiating from the tiny body. "Oh God," I breathed. "How long has he been like this?" The adult made sounds, gestures. I couldn't fully understand, but the urgency was clear. Long enough. Too long. This baby was dying. Hours from death, maybe, and he'd brought it to me. To the human who'd saved him 15 years ago, because he remembered, because he'd never forgotten, because when his own baby was dying, he thought of me, trusted me, believed I could help. "Come inside," I said. "Quickly, we need to work fast." The adult Sasquatch had to duck deeply to fit through my door, barely fit in my cabin. But he came in, trusted me. His baby was dying, and he'd remembered, across 15 years, that I'd helped him, that I could be trusted. I examined the baby. Severe fever, dehydrated, some kind of infection. There was a wound on its leg, infected bite or cut. The baby was maybe hours from death without treatment. I had basic supplies, antibiotics from my own stash for emergencies, fever reducers, clean water. I worked fast, cleaned the wound, applied antibiotic ointment, gave the baby liquid medicine mixed with water, kept it cool with wet cloths. The adult Sasquatch watched every move, ready to intervene if I hurt his child. But trusting, because I'd proven trustworthy 15 years ago, because I'd earned this trust through one act of kindness when he was helpless. Over the next 6 hours, I worked. The adult never left, sat in my cabin, barely fitting, looking absurdly large in the small space, and watched his baby, occasionally making soft sounds. Reassurance? Prayer? I didn't know. Around 1 p.m. the fever broke, the baby's breathing stabilized, color returned to its face. It was going to survive. The adult made a sound, relief, joy, gratitude. He approached, gently took his baby from my arms, held it, checked it carefully, then looked at me and made that same sound his mother had made 15 years ago. "Thank you." Debt acknowledged, connection honored. But he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he set the baby down carefully in the nest of blankets I'd made, then gestured to me, pointed outside. "Come." I followed him out. He walked to the edge of my clearing, stopped, turned, and vocalized a specific pattern, calling. Within minutes, I heard responses. Then 2 more appeared. Smaller than him, but still massive, his mate. And another, younger, maybe a sibling, his family. He'd brought his family to meet me, to show them who I was, to acknowledge the connection across species and time. His mate approached cautiously, carrying something. She set it down at my feet. A carved piece of wood, crude but deliberate. 2 figures, one large, one small, standing together. A representation of me and the baby 15 years ago. They'd kept the memory, made art about it, treasured it. I picked it up, felt the weight of it, the meaning. "Thank you," I said, "thank you for remembering." They stayed for an hour. "Let me see the healthy baby. Let me check that the fever was truly gone. Let me give them extra medicine to take with them." Then, as the sun started lowering, they prepared to leave. The adult, my baby, now fully grown, approached one last time, looked at me with those intelligent eyes, touched my shoulder gently with one massive hand, a blessing, a thank you, a goodbye. Then he picked up his baby and walked into the forest with his family. I watched until they disappeared into the trees. I still have that carved wood. Keep it on my mantle. Look at it every day. A reminder of a connection that spanned 15 years, of a baby who became a father, of a debt acknowledged and repaid across impossible boundaries. I'm 73 now. That was 34 years ago. I've never seen them again. But sometimes, on quiet nights, I hear vocalizations in the distance, familiar patterns, maybe him, maybe his children, maybe his grandchildren, a family continuing in the wilderness. I saved a baby Sasquatch in 1974. In 1989, he knocked on my door as an adult, carrying his own sick baby, trusting me to save the next generation. That trust, that memory across species, across years, across all the reasons it shouldn't have worked, is the most profound connection I've ever experienced. Some people collect possessions, some collect achievements. I collected a connection, a bond with a being that isn't human but understood gratitude, memory, and trust better than most humans I've known. That's my story. That's my truth. And I wouldn't trade that carved piece of wood for anything in the world.